it's comfortable for you, close your eyes for just a moment. And just allow all of the music, all of the prayer, everything that's led up until this moment. Just let it all land in the heart. Feeling ourselves together here in this space. Feeling that call for more love. Just take a deep breath and let it go. Take another deep breath in and let it go. And let's take one more breath together, breathing in and letting go. And so good morning, my friends. If you don't know me, I'm Reverend Elisha Christopher. I am the spiritual director here at the Center for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz. I do use they and them pronouns. My ancestors truly come from all over the world, but the ones we know that immigrated to this country came here through Austria, Scotland, Ireland, and Holland. Let's take one more breath. Breathe in. You know, I've been thinking a lot this week, really, and always, but this week, just about the nature of this thing called the spiritual journey, of this thing called life, of this remarkable moment that we are all living through. And you know, I've been thinking a lot about, I licensed as a minister in March of 2020. I don't know if you remember what else happened in March of 2020. But, I went through school and I took my exams and I licensed in March of 2020. And it was just this kind of like, what an interesting time I signed up to do this. And things have only gotten more interesting since then. And, I remember there was a time last year where I was really feeling myself in a bit of an inspirational void. You ever been there? Where you just can't find it? You can't find the inspiration, you can't find the source, you can't find the thing you're trying to remember, which is the higher truth. And, this was last October, and I took a sabbatical for a little over a month and took some time away to really refined my center, to refind my inspiration, and came back the day before the election in November, and then a week later, we had the vote to sell our building. And it was like, oh, I thought I was taking time to recover from where I'd been. It turned out I was taking the time to get ready for what was coming. That something in me, ahead of me, called me and said, it's time to stop. It's time to slow down. It's time to come back and get clear, because you think you need to take a break because of all you've been doing, but really there's more on its way. And so, the spiritual guidance took me to that place. And I remember part of that time off led to one of the synthesis retreats, which we were doing up in a retreat center up in Oregon. We were up there in the fall. And my little spiritual void lasted for a little while. I'm an inspirational person, so I can get up here and be inspiring and tell you all the wonderful things we're supposed to remember. But at the same time, I can go through my own process of trying to find it and feel it for myself. And it's been a serious journey of trying to find the context for the story we're living in, for how to show up each and every day, how to live through this moment that we're all living through, and whether it's the absolute chaos and fear and horror that is unfolding as our world and as our nation, or whether it's the individual things that are landing in any one of our lives, there's a lot to hold right now. And it's truly overwhelming. And there was this, I kept finding myself using this word, I'm in a void, I'm in a void, I'm in a void. And the seasons, months went along, and we had our next synthesis retreat, which was at the same place up in Oregon in the springtime. And at that retreat, I asked all of the participants to find a quality or a word that they wanted to embody and really cultivate and question for the weekend. And void didn't really seem like the thing I wanted to cultivate. It was the word that was up, so I landed on change, because change was the thing that had kind of kicked me into the void, right? A whole lot of change had rolled up my way, and it really kind of pulled the spiritual rug out from underneath me, and I was trying to find that source of inspiration. And so I remember we were doing a process, and I sat on the top of the hill, and at the Camp Cedar Ridge, there's a big expanse where you're looking out over the forest. And the last time I had been there, it was fall. And now it was spring. And so I'm sitting on the top of this great big expanse, and I'm thinking about change. And then I remembered being there 6 months before, and before all the trees were orange and yellow and falling, and now they were all green and full of life and blooming. And my mind kind of zoomed out into the spaciousness of time, to see that spaciousness, that time was holding all of this change that was cyclical and transformational and had cycles to it, and there was so much more to it than I could see, and I found myself sitting and claiming the quality of spaciousness because I could see that that was what was holding the change. And as I got this inspiration that spaciousness was the quality I wanted to hold, I started to come back to this idea of the void. The void is spaciousness. And so I had been in this story of, I'm in a void, I've lost my inspiration, I don't know how to find the truth or the source of what I'm looking for. And then over a long period of contemplation, it led me to this space that the void is spaciousness itself. And that in the spaciousness, when I can contact that deep, expansive spaciousness, there's a part of me that exists beyond the moment. And there's a part of me that can see the greater stories, the greater patterns, the greater something at work, the evolutionary impulse that's moving through all things. When I expand into the more of me, suddenly there's something that can hold it all. And from that spaciousness started to bubble up new little bits of inspiration, new ideas, new stories, new ways of contextualizing all of the things that are happening. And finding spaciousness in the void has become part of my practice recently, of really finding ways to cultivate spaciousness in my life, because the energy of what's happening out there, there's no room for spaciousness. There's no room for inspiration. There's no room for life force. There's no room for love, it feels like, right? Because it's all creeping in, it's all crumbling, it's all pressing down, it's all so heavy. And yet we've got to cultivate something more. And so I've been thinking about this idea of how do we, each one of us, step into the more of us in these times where it feels like there's less and less room to breathe. And that we have to expand anyways. We have to rise up. We have to find our strength anyways. I keep having this image in my mind. I've done a lot of physical labor in my life. My dad is a landscaper, so my job, much of my time growing up, was moving rocks a lot. And I don't know if you've ever carried something a little too heavy for a little too long, and then when you put it down, and it feels like you're going to float away for a second. And I've been thinking about that as a metaphor for our spiritual practice, right? We've all been given this incredibly heavy weight to carry. And it just keeps getting piled on. And we're still carrying the weight of genocide in Gaza. We're still carrying the weight of a fascist dictatorship taking over the United States. We're still carrying the weight of the pain of our own relationships or diagnoses or whatever's unfolding in our families and in our lives. There's so much we're carrying, and it all keeps getting placed on top more and more and more and more and more. And then you come here, and I'm like, okay, just be at peace, take a breath. Right? Because we have to come, we have this space, whether it's together or your spiritual practice or whatever it is, but we've got to find those moments where we can put it all down and feel how light it is when we do. To feel ourselves floating up when we've released it all, even just for a moment, because in that moment, we can then remember that there's something more going on here. We can remember that there's something more seeking to come through us. As for when I was carrying this big, heavy void around, there was no way out of it, but when I put it down long enough to see it for what it truly is, it became spaciousness. Right? And so what is it that you're carrying that is so heavy, that's so overwhelming, that's so crushing, that yet if you could set it on the altar and take a step back and truly look at it, what gift would be hidden there for you? I really deeply believe that something evolutionary and transcendent and transformational is happening in our world, and it looks terrible. It looks horrible. And yet, at the same time, our hearts are being opened. That the song More Love before this had tears moving in my eyes because I could feel this moment we're all living through collectively is a call for more love. Many of us have said we're all about the love, and then we've perpetuated systems that do the opposite of that to other people, to the environment, and to life itself. And so there's a call for more love. Something is cracking us open, breaking us down enough so that something more can awaken within us. And there's a line from one of my favorite poems. The poem is called Chop Wood, Carry Water by a poet named Maya Luna. And there's a line in that poem that says, "You are a living prayer and magic in motion." You are a living prayer and magic in motion. Ernest Holmes says that a prayer is a movement of thought within the mind of the one thinking along the line of a specific purpose. And we also know that this thing we call God is the infinite mind. So each one of us is a movement of thought within the mind of the one thinking, the mind of the universe. Each one of us is a movement of thought within the mind of God, which means that each one of us is a prayer. And so I live a life that is a prayer to cultivate this inspiration that I bring here each and every week. Right? My life of prayer and meditation and reading and study and being in spiritual teachings is to continuously cultivate something for myself so that I can arrive here and have something to tell you other than I'm really scared too. Because I am, but there's more than that. And I spend my whole week cultivating the something more that wants to be said. My life is a prayer, a ritual that surrounds this very moment each and every week so that I can show here and reveal whatever message is wanting to become through. But your life is a prayer as well. And what is the prayer that your life is cycling around? What is the prayer that your life is cultivating? If everything that you do was cultivating something else that was coming through you, what is that something else? If it's more love, then how do you spend your days cultivating more love so that it can show up through you in the moments where it's needed? I think that a huge piece of the purpose of our spiritual practice and our coming together is to realize that each one of us are an outlet for God. Each one of us are a way that evolution and creation and possibility brings itself into the world, but it only does that purposefully when we do it on purpose. You are the universe creating. You're just going to create by a byproduct of existing. But when you do it intentionally, that power is magnified. Ernest Holmes says, trained thought is much more powerful than untrained thought. Untrained thought is creating those wild thoughts that are running around in our minds, creating all the time. But when we focus it, when we turn our life into a living prayer, when we build our practices around wanting to be a place where something more is being revealed, we hone that energy. Rather than shining a big bright light everywhere, we create a laser that allows something deeply focused to come through. And there are things that are touching each one of our hearts and our souls and our minds, and that's the place where the universe is saying, this is yours. This is your piece of the puzzle. This is your part of the prayer. How are you seeking to express this in a new way? And I think that the universe, life itself, God has handed each and every one of us something. You're sitting with something right now. I guarantee you each one of us is sitting with something that's been handed to us by God for us to do something with. And it's here for your awakening. Even if we think the thing we have to fix is out there, it's been handed to you for you. Because it's about you waking up. It's about me waking up. And I believe that as a collective, the something more is waking up from within us. And the circumstances that have been handed to us are breaking the old paradigms down so that the new stories can come through. But we have to place the context, the story about who it is and what we are, and that's what we come back to here for each and every week, is to get that reminder of the context, the bigger context, the stories, the deeper truths that are here. I was thinking about this idea that in the land of social media, we live in a world of so much content. There are content creators everywhere. What we need is more context creators. Right? Not just little snippets and things to distract us, but those deep memes that change the story, that give us the code about where it is that we are going and what we are seeking. One of the things that is going to be available to all of us, and you heard it in the announcements earlier, but is the socio-political visioning play shop with Reverend Deborah Johnson, with us here at CSL Santa Cruz, Inner Light, and Temple Bethel tomorrow evening. It's one way we can get together and start cultivating a bigger story. Start telling different stories, creating new narratives about what it is that we're living through, because we need new stories. We need better stories about what's happening so that we feel inspired, so that we feel excited, so that we feel there's something that we are coming together to build and not just something that we're fighting against. Because everything that's coming our way is giving us clarity about what is needed from us. Take a breath. You are a living prayer and magic in motion. Would you live your life any differently than you are right now if that was your intention? If you knew that the activities you participate in, the ways that you spend your energy, your money, and your time, the places of your focus, the way that you speak, the thoughts that you think is all part of the living prayer that you are cultivating. What are you seeking to express? If your life is a prayer, what is the answer? And I will say that perhaps life itself has spoken the prayer, and each one of us is the answer. What if you were the answer to the prayer? In the coming weeks, there's going to be a new little form near our prayer box. We often ask for your prayer requests, so our prayer team and practitioners can be praying on all the things that are being held for, that you want held in consciousness. But one of the things I'm going to be asking of this community for my practice is I want to know what are the spiritual questions that you are wrestling with? What are the deep questions that come up for you from these talks, from the teaching, from your life? And we're going to create a new little form that if you have a question, just a spiritual question for contemplation, something you're focused on wanting some answers about, to be put in the prayer box. And those are going to be part of my contemplation, part of my practice, to then bring those answers forth in these talks. So look out for that in the next couple weeks. It'll be in the prayer box. We'll make some announcements about it so you know where to look. Because I realized that, I think I know what we all need to hear. And I think I know what I'm supposed to say as a minister of Science of Mind and as the leader of this community. But I'm also in my own state of questioning and confusion. And I want to know what's on your hearts and in your minds so that we can be in the deeper questioning together and as a community contemplating these ideas and letting the something more come through us. So just keep an eye out for that. Because this job isn't easy. And sometimes I question if I have anything of value to say to anybody. I know. But that's a real thing, right? I'm sure each one of you are great at the things that you do and probably question if you're any good at it, right? And the thing is that the part of it is just continuously showing up. Continuously showing up for each other, continuously doing the work, continuously dropping ever deeper into prayer, continuously doing the affirmation and the prayer to eradicate that voice so that the something more can speak through me. Because I seek to live a life that is cultivating something more and then allowing that something more to express through me. And my goal, my dream, my hope is that as a community, we are coming together to learn how to do that, each one of us, to be a living prayer, to be the answer to the prayer, to be the channel that is allowing the love to be revealed, that is allowing the truth to be spoken, that is allowing the something more to guide us. And Ernest Holmes says that anyone who lives in close contact with the indwelling spirit can be a revealer of truth. And I think that each one of us has come here to reveal some aspect of truth, some unique line of the story that is necessary. And so I just want to invite us into a continuously deeper contemplation of who we are and why we are here and how to show up for each other and for this moment as expressions of God here in the world. So take a deep breath. And just take a moment to connect with the rhythm and the flow of your own breath. As I say so often, remember that we are being breathed by God. Let us remember that there is one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. Let us remember that God is all there is and all there will ever be. One infinite source consciousness that is unfolding as all of existence. Truly, infinite divine presence, shining the sun, spinning the galaxies, growing the trees, buzzing as the bees, unfolding as every human life, yes, each and every human life. Let us remember that all is sacred because all is God. Every bit of it, down to the very particles of existence, God. And so here we are in this manifestation from the divine mind, here in this world, in this physical experience that seems so real. And what I know is that we are here to experience this world. We are here to experience the contrast. We are here to be awakened. We come into this experience of being separate so that we can remember that we are one. And what I see in this moment is that everything necessary for the awakening of human consciousness to more love, everything necessary to the awakening of human consciousness to the truth of our oneness, everything necessary to the awakening of human consciousness to the truth that all life is sacred, is here, available to us right now. And so what I know is that the circumstances are cracking us open, that the conditions are breaking down all that no longer serves, and that we are here in this ripe and beautiful moment where we are being called to stand for something new. We are being called to release old paradigms, to release old stories, to release old ways of being, and show up and create and dream and manifest in whole new ways. And so let us learn to pour our love into each and every person. Let us learn to use the issues of our time to ask ourselves the big questions of how do we rise above. Let us remember that every single thing that comes our way is handed to us directly by the universe itself. Each one of us given a gift that when we are willing to truly sit with it, to open it, to look at it, will reveal to us everything we need to know. And so I just speak a word of gratitude for this beloved community, for the something more that keeps calling us together, for the something more that is awakening in our hearts and our minds right even in this moment. As we hear these words, we are reminded of our truth. And that in what may feel like an infinite field of chaos, we come together to create moments of cohesion, of coherence, where our hearts are united, where our minds are united, where we remember the love, we remember the oneness, we remember the something more. And we can remember that we are sourced by that infinite presence. And so breathe again. Feel yourself being breathed by God. Feel yourself being lived by life. Feel yourself being moved in this moment by the current of evolution itself. And surrender to it. Remembering that each one of us is a living prayer and magic in motion. And that our job is to reveal the truth and to be the love everywhere we go. And so, we let it be, accepting these words as true. We say together, and so it is.